Welcome to the fourth episode of Grading U.S. Foreign Policy. In this show, we grade stories about Syria, Iran, Somalia, the USAID, the Golden Dome, and more. Grades are given from a non-political, anti-war perspective. The first story comes from Al Jazeera on May 20th. Trump says U.S. will put weapons in space as part of Golden Dome plan.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that
U.S. President Donald Trump says the Golden Dome he envisions for the United States would offer the country near 100% protection from a ballistic or hypersonic missile attack.
Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. And we will have the best system ever.
Our adversaries have been quickly modernizing their nuclear forces, building out ballistic missiles capable of hosting multiple warheads, building out hypersonic missiles capable of attacking the United States within an hour and traveling at 6,000 miles an hour.
Trump says the Golden Dome would cost $175 billion and be fully operational within 3 years.
We gave Trump's decision to weaponize space a grade of F+. The next story is from Fox News on May 13th. Trump calls out interventionists and neocons in Saudi Arabia address.
And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries.
We gave this a grade of B+. The next two stories are about Syria. The first is from The Hill on April 18th. It reads, U.S. begins pulling hundreds of troops from Syria. According to the Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell, due to the success the United States has had against ISIS, including its 2019 territorial defeat under President Trump, the U.S. military will shutter 3 of its 8 small outposts in northeast Syria, withdrawing some 600 service members, which will bring the U.S. forces in Syria down to fewer than 1,000 in the coming months. We gave this a grade of A-. The second story is from CNN on May 15th. Trump's embrace of Syria and its jihadist-turned president could shake up the Middle East. U.S. President Donald Trump had tea with a former jihadist who until recently had a $10 million U.S. bounty on his head. Interim Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, once known as Abu Mohammed al-Jilani, was placed on the U.S. specially designated global terrorist list in 2013 for heading al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria, known as al-Nusra Front, and allegedly orchestrating suicide bombings across Syria. The Saudi-born former jihadist had spent years fighting U.S. forces in Iraq before moving to Syria to lead an armed Islamist rebellion that ousted Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. We gave Trump's actions a grade of F+. On February 12th, antiwar.com reported, Trump suspends funding for the National Endowment for Democracy. The NED is a US-funded organization set up in the 1980s that meddles in elections around the world in the name of promoting democracy. We gave this a grade of B+. This is from Dawn News on May 3rd, 1,200 jobs. Trump plans major CIA cuts to downsize US government.
The Trump administration is planning significant cuts to the CIA and other U.S. intelligence agencies, according to a report by The Washington Post. Over 1,200 positions are expected to be cut from the CIA alone, with thousands more across the wider U.S. intelligence community. These cuts will roll out over several years and will mostly come through reduced hiring, not direct layoffs. A CIA spokesperson did not confirm exact figures but said the changes are part of a broader strategy to realign the agency with the administration's national security goals. CIA Director John Ratcliffe, appointed by Trump in January, has pledged to deliver objective, all-source analysis and boost operational efficiency.
This news was given a B-. This March 30th video is from Reuters. Trump threatens Iran with bombing, tariffs, if no nuclear deal reached.
U.S. President Donald Trump threatened Iran on Sunday with bombing, and also with what he called secondary tariffs if Tehran did not come to a new agreement with Washington over its nuclear program. In a telephone interview with NBC News, Trump said, quote, "If they don't make a deal, there will be bombing. It will be bombing, the likes of which they have never seen before." But he also suggested another outcome could be tariffs on countries that imported Iranian oil in an effort to further pressure Iran for concessions.
This received a grade of D-. This is from the New York Times on April 16th. Trump waved off Israeli strike after divisions emerged in his administration. Israel had planned to strike Iranian nuclear sites as soon as next month, but was waved off by President Trump in recent weeks in favor of negotiating a deal with Tehran to limit its nuclear program. The debate highlighted fault lines between historically hawkish American cabinet officials and other aides more skeptical that a military assault on Iran could destroy the country's nuclear ambitions and avoid a larger war. Trump's decision was given a grade of A. The next story is from The Independent on May 14th. Trump wants to make deal with Iran on 3 conditions.
Everybody at this table knows where my loyalties lie, always have. They'll never waver, never. And we'll stand with our friends and partners and we'll confront the aggression that threatens us all. I want to make a deal with Iran. I want to do something if it's possible. But for that to happen, it must stop sponsoring terror, halt its bloody proxy wars, and permanently and verifiably cease its pursuit of nuclear weapons. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. I don't imagine there's anybody at this table or anybody in this room that would say they can. I'm strongly urging all nations to join us in fully and totally enforcing the sanctions that I just placed on Iran, and we also place secondary sanctions, which are in certain ways even more devastating.
We gave this a grade of C. This is from The Independent on April 3rd. US committed as ever to NATO and Trump is not against the alliance, says Rubio. This gets a grade of D. On May 2nd, Axios reported. Trump wants $1 trillion for Pentagon. Trump's desire to increase military spending received a grade of F+. On February 1st, WION ran this video. Trump launches airstrikes on ISIS in Somalia.
Shifting our focus now, the U.S. military has conducted airstrike against Islamic State operatives in Somalia. This is the first attack by the U.S. during President Donald Trump's second term. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said strikes targeted Islamic State Somalia operatives in the Golis Mountains in the semi-autonomous Puntland area. An initial assessment by the Pentagon indicated that multiple Islamic State operatives were killed in the attack. U.S. President, in a social media post on Truth Social, said the strikes destroyed the caves of terrorists without harming any civilians. The post further added that ISIS has been on the target of the United States and many terrorists were killed in the attack. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has said that the operation reinforces the strong security partnership between the two countries in combating extremist threats. In a social media post on X, the president said Somalia remains resolute in working with its allies to eliminate international terrorism and ensure regional stability. The Pentagon's counterterrorism strategy in Africa has been strained as 2 weeks partners, Chad and Niger, ousted U.S. forces last year and took over key bases that the U.S. military had used to train and conduct missions against terrorist groups.
This got a grade of F. The next 4 stories about Somalia are from antiwar.com and all received a grade of F. On March 19th, U.S. launches airstrike in Somalia, claims Al-Shabaab fighters killed. On April 17th, Somali government says U.S. launched airstrikes against Al-Shabaab. On May 5th, U.S. launches more airstrikes in Somalia's Puntland region, says ISIS targeted. And on May 14th, U.S. launches airstrike in Somalia, says it targeted Al-Shabaab. We'll quickly go through the next 5 stories. Trump vows to take back Panama Canal, talks of manifest destiny in space. Grade of D. Donald Trump wants to get rid of nuclear weapons. Grade of B. Trump says he doesn't rule out using military force to control Greenland. Grade of D. Trump announces full and immediate ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Grade of A-. Trump signs deals with Saudis, including biggest ever $142 billion arms agreement. This received a grade of F+. This is from the New York Times on March 14. Hegseth closes Pentagon office focused on future wars. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the shuttering of the Office of Net Assessment, a small, often secretive office that for more than 50 years has helped the Pentagon's most senior leaders think about the future of war. We gave this a grade of A-. The final 3 stories are about the USAID. Antiwar.com ran this story on February 6. Report: Trump to keep only 294 out of 10,000 USAID employees. The pause on foreign aid and overhaul of USAID has highlighted the agency's role in destabilizing activities across the world, which includes advancing regime change efforts by funding opposition groups and media outlets in other countries. This news got a grade of B. This is from the Associated Press on March 10. Secretary of State Rubio says purge of USAID programs complete, with 83% of agency's programs gone. 5,200 of USAID's 6,200 programs eliminated. Those programs spent tens of billions of dollars in ways that did not serve, and in some cases even harmed, the core national interests of the United States, Rubio wrote. We gave this a grade of B+. And on March 28, the USA Today reported, Trump administration moves to fire remaining USAID staff. A statement from Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the State Department had notified the U.S. Congress of its intent to reorganize USAID, saying the agency had strayed from its original mission long ago. As a result, the gains were too few and the costs were too high. We gave this news a grade of A-. So, the average grade of the 25 stories in this show was a C. We hope this episode of Grading U.S. Foreign Policy has offered you valuable information. Previous shows include Episode 1, where we grade U.S. involvement in the war in Ukraine. Episode 2, where we grade U.S. actions in Israel's war in Gaza and the West Bank. And Episode 3, where we grade the U.S. war on the Houthis in Yemen. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.